Welcome to the Savvy Leader Podcast, the place for growth, learning, and inspiration for leaders just like you. I'm your host, Kristin Gallatin, and each week we will dive into the grit, grace, and gratitude it takes to become the savvy leader you were always meant to be. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's edition of the Savvy Leader Podcast. I'm excited to have Jacquee Adams, or Jacquee, here with us today. She is going to give us another twofer. She is a lead network professional in addition to a money manager. She manages business, finances, and administrative services for small and micro-size or medium-sized businesses. And she's got a lot of really great insight that she's going to share with us that's going to fit right into this money series that we've been talking about, the big, scary money conversation. But as a lead member, we get to hear a little bit more about her real behind the scenes story. So, hey, Jacquee, I'm so glad that you're here today.
Thank you. Excited.
Could you tell us a little bit about your background as an accountant and owner of Vantage Virtual Services?
Yeah. So I have been, I started Vantage Virtual Services a little over 5 years ago. I say my accounting journey started probably right out of high school. I kind of always wanted to do something with numbers. Like that was always my thing, was numbers. Um, and so then, at the job I was at, I was kind of progressed through and I progressed into management and I was overseeing bookkeeping but also handling scheduling, payroll, and other aspects for that business. And then I decided that I wanted to dive more into just, focusing on the bookkeeping aspects of businesses. And so I went and I finished out my degree. And you had presented me with the opportunity to help my stepdad Eric's painting company, because the business or the finances were kind of, put on the back burner, and like all businesses. So I stepped in and really learned more of the QuickBooks Online side of things. I'd always worked with QuickBooks Desktop in the past, so I never really put two and two of working with businesses outside. So then when I was helping you guys, I was going through and I was like, well, this is like right up my alley. This is exactly what I wanted to do. So I did that for a little while and then started my company where I work completely remote with small to medium-sized businesses, helping them untangle messes or just keep things in order, get ready for tax time, just being a resource for all things accounting when it comes to businesses. I really love it.
I feel like you are in such a great position for so many people out there. Lots of people start businesses and, they're worried about the finances. Not everybody has a bunch of money stocked away for it. Not all banks will loan money to a new business owner. So having resources and funding, it can get a little bit kind of scary. So I think, and it's such a weight, it can be such a weight because all of your income is based on your sales. And if you're not accustomed to working in that type of arena, it can be pretty stressful. So I feel like what you have to offer fits so great with so many people. And I know your approach is just kind of genuine and casual and, no fear, no problems, just, you need to see your money and then work through your money and talk about it. But before we dive into money stuff, you shared a little bit about your background. And tell me something about this whole, why did you know that you wanted to do something with numbers? Help me out with that. Nobody likes numbers but you, I think.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. Like for me, numbers just have always made sense. Like I've always going back to just school and high school, and math was always just it came pretty easy and natural, and I just enjoyed working more with numbers. I mean, English was not my subject. It was not it. And I was just gravitated towards it, and I think it's the how it can be complex, but also simple kind of at the same time. And when it comes to accounting, especially with small businesses, like there's a lot that goes into it. Like yeah, there's the data entry of just categorizing your transactions, but then there are a lot of things that can come into play if you start adding payroll, you start adding loans, you start adding assets, and making sure those are getting booked in the proper places. Because if they aren't, then it's not going to reflect properly on your reports, and it's not going to give you that information that you need to be able to get a whole overview of your business. So I think I just really enjoy just diving in and just kind of getting everything in order and in place, and taking something from, just chaos, and then like transforming it, untangling it, and just having these reports that kind of give you a clear picture on how things look. And it also is I guess I enjoy being, I guess, enlightening, I guess, for the business owners so that they can see and like kind of, get that weight lifted off them. I like, yeah, we got this. This is all good. You don't have to sit and question, are you doing it right? Is the information accurate? I don't know. It's just fulfilling, I guess. Kind of nice to see, especially when they're new business owners and they can watch them thrive instead of sit and struggle when there's already enough struggles with owning a business.
There certainly can be. Owning it, especially a new business owner, first time out there, it can be stressful with so many things. You wear all the hats,
Mm.
and managing the money seems like this. I don't know if it's the scariest or the hardest, but it's always carries so much weight. Um, Tell us a little bit about your values and your guiding principles when you're advising clients. How do you, I know you've got great tools and resources, but what's one of the first couple things that you start looking at when you're meeting a new client or you're looking through their books, or, how do you decipher all of that information and determine the best next step?
Yeah, so I usually start any approach with kind of like the principle of like there's no shame in messy books, because I have a lot of people that come mid chaos because they are at their breaking point. Like they're either at they're stuck on something, or they just don't have time. And the next thing they know, they're 6 months behind, and or they're trying to do their taxes, and their accountant or their tax preparer is asking them questions that they don't know the answers to. Because I feel like a lot of people they try to do it themselves for as long as they can. So I always usually start with like, there's no shame. There's no shame in messy books. I actually prefer them to come in messy because it's kind of fun to untangle. But also like when it comes to bookkeeping, I mean, unless it is something to do with payroll, nothing is an emergency. Nothing is going to break your business because of XYZ. Like we are always doing things after the fact. So there are very few things that can't be fixed. Like and maybe you were doing something wrong for 5 years and you didn't know, and you need to fix it. Like you might have 1 year that's a little messy making those fixes, but once they're fixed going forward, and you don't have to worry about it. So I always try to like bring in like, okay, we're okay. It's okay. We can be calm. We can go through, and when we just kind of go down the line, we go through, what are your bank accounts? What are your credit cards? What is in your account? Do you have loans? Do you have assets? We kind of have a checklist of things that we just go through. And then I compare it against what they have and just kind of dig in. And, there's always things that come up as you dig in because, especially you know, you're 6, 8 months down the line, you don't exactly remember what you bought at XYZ for, this, that, or the other. So there is some back and forth of going through and untangling any mess or getting that information, and it can be a little bit of work up front. But once that work is done, then it's from there on, it's smooth sailing. Like, it's very minimal work once you get over the big hurdle. So I always try to approach with, um, there's no shame in messiness and nothing, we can be calm and and I also try to guide with more just education. And I always let people know, like, this is your business. Like, if you want something, a certain way, I can guide you on the proper treatment of things. But ultimately, it's up to you and how you want to run your business. So I'm here as a resource and as just knowledge.
I love that approach. And that's what makes you such a valuable resource too. Even if you didn't have someone on retainer every month, they could always reach out to you, whether hourly or whatever, but you've always been so open and honest about just basic fundamentals. But listening to you talk, it dawned on me that, what, what caused you to take this route instead of going the traditional accountant route and, being a CPA and going down that road? What caused you to want to do this road instead?
Yeah. I was considering, going through doing the CPA, going that route. Um, but generally I mean, and not always, there are plenty of situations where it doesn't, but a lot of times that kind of just leads you into like public accounting where you're doing things for big corporations every day. You're working for the same business every day. I like variety and I like changes, but I also feel like, especially since probably like when COVID was happening and people were remote, people were learning new skills, people were expanding, that there's been this huge boom in just entrepreneurship in general over the last few years. And I really enjoy like helping the smaller guys like succeed, because I feel like it's just more rewarding. You're working more one-on-one with these business owners who are just trying to, they're not necessarily trying to change the world. They're trying to, do things for themselves. They're trying to make a better life for them or their families, or a lot of times they're a lot more community involved and helping to advance, local communities. I think that just smaller business owners just have a lot more going on, or I guess more heart in the game, I guess you could say. So it's more fulfilling than going into the same office every day and crunching the same balance sheet every day for the same company. I did that for a while, with on the bookkeeping side, not the full like staff accountant side, but I like the variety and it's just kind of more fulfilling.
That's cool. I think that that's fantastic. I think, yeah, it is just a little bit more, you get to be more personal and you get to actually help people make a difference. And I think that's pretty awesome. So when you're working with clients, how do you help them understand what their short-term cash flow, how that impacts, or how does, how do you help them reach their long-term visions or set up strategies to um, kind of reach those longer term goals and visions?
Yeah, I got a couple of things. Well, usually it starts, we start by going through the reports, and which can be boring. The reports can definitely be boring because, it's just a bunch of numbers and words on paper. But what is, what we do is we look at one thing with business, especially newer businesses or ones that aren't working with an accountant, is typically they'll look at their profit and loss or their income statement and just see that number, and like that's all they look at, which that gives you a good idea of what your where your finances are, but it definitely does not give you the whole picture, like, because there are things that you spend money on every month that don't necessarily go on your income statement or aren't reflected there. So we definitely take the income statement plus the balance sheet, and then we go through the statement of cash flows, and we kind of go through each one of these reports, see where everything's at, and then, but yeah, the statement of cash flow is always really big, so you can actually see a breakdown of where your money went for that period. Usually it's for that month. But I also, depend, each client is a little different in their industry and what their goals are. So we also, for some clients, we'll look at industry like KPIs, and we'll look at the benchmarks against others in their industry, or just where they were at maybe a year ago and how they're progressing and what changes they made there. Um, But yeah, so biggest thing is going through the statements, and then first, another option is also looking at budgeting and then creating those budgets, and then actually going through and making sure that you're staying on budget. And then if you aren't, like recognizing why that is. Because, it's one thing if you're way off budget, but, it's something you either expected or it was, that's just what happened. But it's another thing to be way off budget and just not aware at all. Like, you're like contractors are spending their money on their supplies for the jobs that they're doing, and they think that they're all in line and things are going well until the job's completed and they're looking at it and they spent twice as much in supplies that they had initially accounted for. So, then how much you're profiting on those jobs is affected, which then affects future, your cash in general. Those are the big things is, budgeting, looking at all the reports, and then if you have if you're a business that does projects like contractors, to definitely look at your job costing and like actually analyzing it and looking at where the money went, are you bidding accurately? Are you taking into account all your different expenses when you are bidding out these projects and just making sure everything falls in line so that you don't get 5 projects done and then you think you're going to have all this revenue to either, spend on marketing and then you're like, oh, my bank account only has $100 in it. Like, how did that happen? So that kind of
So
thing.
true. Yeah, so true. That can happen real fast. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing how fast cash goes when you don't have assets to kind of lean on.
Mm-hmm.
So with that though, what are some of the really big challenges that you've seen small business owners? I mean, what's a big scary one that you've seen? Anything major or is it all really just, not as bad as people might think?
For the majority of things, everything is just not as bad as people think. A lot of times it can be as simple, like I've had people come to me who like I did a one-time project for somebody who they're doing all their stuff themselves, and for the most part they were good, but they were running these reports and it just was not like me. The numbers weren't adding up to what they thought. Like, showing they had these huge losses. They're like, why isn't it showing that I have a net loss of just, thousands and thousands of dollars and this and that. So we go in and kind of look through everything and find things like there's a mapping issue with payroll. So all of every single paycheck that you issued was duplicated on your reporting. Like, and which can be a huge deal when you look at the report. It's making this huge variance that's not correct. But the fix itself is very simple. It's go through and, fix mapping or redo transactions. So in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to just your bookkeeping, it's all, it's laid back. Like everything can be fixed fairly easily. But yeah, the biggest challenge is really, yeah, businesses coming in mid chaos because they just don't have time or they don't know, or they've taken out 5 credit cards and they're not keeping track of them and those kind of things.
That can happen too. That's not uncommon either. So I'm thinking about, I know you work virtually and you're
Mhm.
primarily solo. How do you keep yourself positive or how do you maintain your focus and productivity when you're, working kind of so independently that way?
Systems. I have a lot of
Mm.
systems in place. I lean on. I have to lean on. I'm like, um, if I deviate from them, it it always just puts me into more, gets overwhelmed and whatnot. But I have a few different systems where I have some programs. One that's specifically for bookkeeping that I have connected to my clients' accounts. It creates a portal for them so that we can kind of keep everything organized in one spot. Because that's the one thing is it's important to keep everything in one spot when you are requesting documents. You have questions on transactions because things get lost in email really, really quickly. Um, especially if you send an email with 5 questions on things and they respond to 3 of them, but then you have to go back and you respond to their responses, but there's still those 2 questions lingering out there that never got responded to. So I have a portal where we keep everything together. And so each client has their own area where everything goes. but it also is connected to their account. So on my end, it has different sections where I can go through every single, the big major points of things that need to be checked, make sure everything's done, when we're closing out a month. And then it also has reporting with a lot of really cool features to create these awesome visuals to really give the owners like a really clear picture of like where their money is. And it's totally customizable also, which is awesome because then I talk to the client like what is important to you to know, because I could give you a million I could give you a list or 5 pages of KPIs and all this information, but if it's not important to you, then you're not, it's not going to be useful. So what's important, figuring out what's important to the business owner is helpful there. And then, so that's where I have one program where I keep all of like the book work and the stuff for specific clients. But then I also have an outside, I use ClickUp, and I have a lot of automations, recurring things, so that I just can go in there and be like, okay, this is what I have to get done today. This is what's coming up, if I have spare time. But there's also awesome integrations where, I can go through my emails and I can use the extension in on Chrome and add a quick task. Like, oh, I'm going through an email from a client, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't have time to do it right now, because if I do it right now, then I'm going to get sidetracked and go do X, Y, Z and not stay on track. So I can just click the extension, add the email to a task, and be like, okay, I'm going to do this on this day. And then I don't think about it. The email gets sorted into a folder for that client, and when it comes to the day, and that's when I review it and go through it. Another thing is, um, like each one of my clients, I have a specific day that I work on their stuff. And I also try to create a rhythm with my week where Mondays, I really don't do any client work specifically. I kind of get ready for the week, go through emails, and just do like the CEO type of day and figure out where I'm at. Like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are always my most productive days. And those are the days where I'm like, okay, I focus on my clients these days. What do they have going on, and making sure nothing gets missed there. But yeah, definitely systems, and also just recognizing when when to do work, I guess, because for me, sometimes I'm super productive at random times, and with my schedule and how things work, sometimes I find myself at 8 o'clock at night and I have time, and this is a productive time for me, so I will work on client things because there's no restriction that I can't, and like this is when I'm gonna get it done. So sometimes I do even schedule in like working in the evenings, but if I work in the evenings, it's because I didn't work earlier that day. Like that, you got, because that's the main thing is boundaries of not finding yourself working all day long, because that's one thing that's really easy to slip into. So I try to break up the days, keep a little variety, and staying on track with things. But each day I go through and I have my list of things. And if I checked everything off the list, I'm like, there's no, I'm done for the day. Like, check out and find something else to do.
That's so great. That's just awesome. I love that you have all those processes and all those systems in place, and you lean on different tools and resources. You're very tech savvy, and you bring in, and that's like part of your tech team essentially.
It is.
Um,
It is. I so rely on my programs.
yeah, well, but I love that you also recognize when you're productive and not trying to force yourself to work during the time of the day when you're not going to be productive, because you've got but the best part is you've already created this list of things that you're going to need to do each day, because you're using your tech to help keep you on track, keep you from overlooking things, and then setting up keeping your boundaries, but also setting up your work hours that coincide with your natural rhythm. I
hmm
think that's so great. And how did you discover that? I mean, did you already know that about yourself, or was that something you came upon, or was that a mindset shift for you?
I think it was kind of like a mindset, almost like an unshift, because I was just forcing myself to fit in this box of no, working hours are from this time to this time. This is when you work, and like if you're working at night, then you're overworking or if you're doing, and I would sit there and I would force myself to get up at like 5 or 6 in the morning and be like, okay, I gotta get on there because if I don't do this by this time, I'm gonna be behind here. And then I was just forcing myself, and it was working for a while, but eventually, you get burnt out on it. And I'm not a morning person. I never have been my entire life. I I am somebody who thrives in like the evening, like when it's dark out, especially in the winter months when it gets dark at 4 or 5 o'clock. I'm like, that is when I am most productive. That's when I get my most burst of energy. And then I was going through and just trying to figure things out. And then I found out that I had ADHD, and which answered a lot of questions there. And as I was learning more about it and the things that you have to do, I just kind of came to this, yeah, just naturally like realization of how my days need to look. And otherwise, I'm going to be either burnt out or just in kind of in a daze, all day. So, yeah, it was more of a natural thing, but I gave up on basically trying to be somebody I wasn't. Like I'm not somebody who's going to work from this time to this time. If I don't have to, like, because who's saying that you have to do that? Like I respond to I'll go through my emails at the normal times, like in the mornings and respond to clients. One boundary is I won't reach out to anyone in the evenings. But if it's 8 o'clock and my husband was gonna play video games for an hour, and I'm like, I'm just gonna sit on the couch and pull my laptop out and do a few things because I'm really motivated right now. And if I don't do that right now, what am I gonna, I'm just gonna sit there and think about doing that. So why not do it? So it's kind of, yeah, it's just figuring out my schedule and who I am and how I work best. It's
Hmm.
been it's been nice. It's always a work in progress though. You're always trying to make things improve on things, but I feel like once you get a solid like base, then you can always make small tweaks, but it helps. It helps just to you know do what works for you.
Yeah, you're so right, though. I mean, so many of us do. We sit there and try to keep ourselves within this box. And yes, of course, you recognize when other people are working. So if you have correspondence with them, you can always schedule those emails to go out, or
Hmm.
messages or however you message them, because there's so many different ways now. But, you know, I like that. You said instead of sitting here thinking about working, I just go ahead and do the work because why not? Um,
Hmm.
and then I just structure my days around it as long as you're not feeling burned out. Because I'm thinking about the whole idea here that here you are, a relatively new small business owner, micro business owner, helping other small business owners. Does this, does being in that position help you relate to them? How does that play into the dynamic of your client relationship?
Yeah, I think it definitely helps because it helps because when you go to networking groups and when you have your own small business, you naturally just have other entrepreneurs around you. So you hear their struggles and the struggles in different industries, but then also working with various because I don't limit my clients and like they have to be in a certain industry. So I have an array of different industries that I work with directly. But you definitely being around people who are running their own business, you see the struggles and you can recognize them. And you understand what they're going through. Like when you're talking to these business owners, one on one, you feel the same things that they do. In a sense, might not be the same industry, but the same, pressures and just overwhelm of doing all the things, especially in today's day with social media, and there's just so much going on all the time. So it's just this constant like overwhelm. But it definitely helps. That's why I always try to approach like, you know, your bookkeeping is very, very important. Like I think it is very important. Like I think everyone should have it as like one of their top things for priority. But sometimes it's not the top priority. There are other things that actually are probably more important, other fires that need to be put out. So I definitely don't sit there and like harass. Like you gotta put all these super strict deadlines in. like, yeah, it's preferred, to get things done by certain due dates, but I also am able to recognize like sometimes, even sometimes there's not time to get certain things done, and bookkeeping can be overwhelming, and people might want to avoid it sometimes or avoid answering the questions. But I always just tell them, I'm like, if you can't get back to me this week, it's okay. We can go through it next week. As long as we're not getting 3, 4 months behind, and it's not really gonna give you because getting reports 3, 4 months behind isn't as beneficial as being more on top of it. But sometimes things just happen. And I feel like being around entrepreneurs more just kind of adds more, just more empathetic to the situations and not so rigid. And you don't have to be so this. Like, we're laid back. Everything's important, but it's not a 5 alarm fire.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I think too, like, I'm sure with your strategy sessions and, it probably really helps you because you've got this real life, experience and you're going through a lot of the same things that they're going through balancing sales. And, so often sales is such a focus, but for so many people, sales is just not their forte. And so that's a huge,
Mhm.
big rock to move and thinking about money. If their money isn't their forte or if they don't have a ton of it, they're going to be shying away from that. So I think your approach is unique, and I think it's probably helps you foster better relationships, which should in turn then give your clients better results because you're able to really connect with them and get them to the places that they need to be and focusing on the right things at the right times.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
super cool. So tell me about, you love numbers. You knew this is what you wanted to do. I'm so jealous that you
Mhm.
always knew that you wanted to do something with numbers. So many of us out there are like, I don't know. I know I like this and I like that. And I mean, there's just, we find ourselves in places that we don't already maybe naturally expect to be in, or we're yearning for something different. But you had the benefit of already knowing what it was or the general field that you wanted to go into. Were there any other influences in your life or mentors or coaches or people that you've been around that have helped you to kind of grow that passion to want to be your own boss?
Um, I think, well, being around you and Eric, definitely like watching you guys start your own businesses, it definitely made things more realistic, I guess, is like, oh, well, yeah, you just do this. Like I feel like with businesses a lot of times people if they're not around a lot of other business owners or just kind of toying with the idea, it's like this big thing, and it's like you need something that has to be overcomplicated, but it doesn't really. So I think watching you guys start those multiple different businesses and go through any challenges in that way, and then how much you guys worked with other business owners, that to the point where I was like interacting with other business owners before I even really had a thought of like actually starting. I toyed with it, like toyed with the idea for a couple years, like, oh yeah, just trying to figure out how it worked. Because at the time, with the experience that I had, I didn't quite understand like how we could bridge, go into the virtual space um, with bookkeeping and things like that. But yeah, after just being around more business owners, you see it's more of a reality. Then yeah. But other than that, no, I just kind of like was like, oh yeah, this is cool. I like this. I'm gonna do this.
Awesome. I just thought of something while you were chatting. It probably ties into what we were talking about just before this little segment here. But I mean, I'm thinking about the economy and I'm thinking about business owners and I'm thinking about just, struggles I keep hearing about with, they're common in business. What are some pain points going on right now? I mean, what are some common pain points that you're seeing within businesses? Is it expenses? Is it supplies? Is it employees? What kind of pain points are people dealing with most often right now?
Yeah, it's the usual. It's if with in the economy and inflation and things like that, navigating higher prices for supplies, looking, having to have the tough look of, do you need to increase your pricing, or are you able to, to sustain it at your current, looking at where prices are going or have, are going there, is a big thing. Another thing is with payroll. Adding on payroll can be a huge thing, and it should definitely not be done something that is done lightly, especially if you have been operating as a solopreneur, doing everything yourselves, and you're going to look at hiring people, and hiring employees on. I always like suggest, like, is there a way you can look at maybe trying out a contractor first type of thing? Like some industries, some situations, it's not something that's feasible. Payroll is the only option. But yeah, like adding payroll can be a huge thing. 'Cause there's so many compliance points with it. There's new hire reporting, there's getting set up with the IRS and the state for remitting those taxes, filing every quarter. And then with the taxes, everyone has different rules on when they're due. If you collect in Minnesota, if you collect a certain amount in the IRS, if you collect over a certain threshold every month or whatever, whatever the threshold is, like you have to remit those withdrawal or what's withheld pretty much immediately. Like you have to constantly send that money in immediately. Some people only have to do it every quarter. And then keeping track of those withholdings that need to be remitted. And then there's also additional things like Minnesota right now is in the process of adding the paid family leave that's going into effect at the beginning of the year, making sure that your things are set up properly for that. And it's just all the compliance points that I feel like a payroll should never be something that's taken on lightly. It should, that's one of the things. Like you should look at all aspects of it, and figure out plans before you take that one on, because that's definitely one of the biggest challenges is getting payrolls going correctly so that you're set up more for success and not, behind and trying to figure it out as you go.
Yeah, payroll can be a huge thing, and we know that for sure. Um, so in looking though at, I know things have changed a lot. Our world is ever changing, and
hmm
more compliance and more expectations and more government, taxes and different areas. What do you foresee coming down there? Should we be expecting something next year? I guess I should say some new changes with business owners coming in 2026. Have you heard of anything coming up or?
There have been, yeah, a few things with like there was the big bill that was recently passed. I believe a few of the things go into effect in 2026, such as like things like tips, and overtime and things like that. I know that there'll be big changes in that and how things are reported. But yeah, otherwise, it also depends on, the type of entity you are, because there's different things that apply to, if you're a single member LLC or sole prop versus being an S corp or a C corp or a partnership. Different things definitely fall into different buckets. So it's good to just be aware of what you're signing, like what you are setting yourself up as when you do, and making sure, you're talking with lawyers to making sure that's all set up correctly. And then yeah, looking at how the different changes are coming. But yeah, for right now, it's just the biggest is that big bill, which um I think there's still some things getting worked out with that one. But and then I know that there are a few things, like there are a few tax related things, but I'm not currently offering taxes, so I haven't looked at like the ones. I think a lot of it more is individuals type of things. So businesses, there are a few things in there, but nothing major standing out for me that I can think of right now.
Okay. So the biggest thing right now is just that paid family medical leave here in Minnesota. That one
hmm
is a big one for small business owners that have payroll. For
hmm
sure. That's a big impact. I know you did a couple of special meetings on that with our network group. So always very helpful. Share with us, what are your plans for the future, Jack? What are you looking at? What do you want to do? Are you happy where you're at? Do you want to grow? Do you want to take on new things or shift your perspective?
Yeah, I am. I have a few things that I'm working on. Well, AI has been such a big thing lately, and I know a lot of it's always the buzzword, it's always the topic. Everyone's trying to figure out how they can use AI and, have it help them and all that stuff. So like right now, I work exclusively with QuickBooks Online. Like all my clients are on QuickBooks Online. I am looking to expand and learn more about Xero because that has been one that has been it's kind of been an up and comer for quite a few years. I think they're really popular in like Australia, but they are getting bigger and more people are using them, and they're very similar to QuickBooks. So I was looking into getting certified in that to have some more diversity in software, but then also back to QuickBooks, they are adding a lot of AI. And I was just having a conversation with somebody yesterday that was talking into the basic gist of it is like, yeah, QuickBooks is adding all these AI tools to, their goal is to help business owners to be able to do their books and have AI go through it. But where, accountants need to shift is you're not going to be stuck doing as much of that manual data entry type things. You're going to be reviewing what the AI has done, but then it gives you this huge opportunity to dive more into strategy and the like analytics and just the advisory itself and in seeing what the numbers give. So I have been looking into a couple of things just regarding more advisory services to start offering, a few certifications, and then I am looking at down the road adding taxes. But life got in the way of that plan for this year, but maybe in the next year or two. So yeah, big plans to just kind of expand on what we have to offer and to utilize AI to a degree. I mean, I still like doing things and making sure, like doing it myself. But as the AIs get better, I think I'm gonna start incorporating them a little more, test the waters, and then be able to use the extra time to do those more deep dive advisory type things and the things that can actually help you other than like while reports and things are very important, there is so much more that you can get out of them than just the basic information. Like there's a lot in those numbers that you can get if you have the time to go through them.
Yeah, and well, in AI, that is kind of a big exciting thing these days. Do you see other exciting things happening in the bookkeeping, accounting, and advisory services type arena? Do you see anything else coming around the bend that might really enhance your offerings?
Yeah, AI, because it seems like everything that is tailored towards the bookkeeping industry or the accounting industry they're all offering all these new AI things. And it's exciting to see what they have to what ideas they're coming out with because like QuickBooks is adding gosh, I can't remember. I think it's like three or four different AI like agents they call them that are going to be on in the back that can be on in the background and you interact with them as if they are, they're just doing the work behind the scenes and you go through what they have all in, their specific areas that they're in. But yeah, AI is definitely the biggest thing coming. That's always the biggest buzz.
Yeah, it's cool. So, tell us, no, let's get a little insider scoop here. I'm sure there's a ton of new young business owners out there that might be nervous about their business finances. Do you have some advice that you would like to offer them? I mean, what could you say to help them just kind of cool their jets a little bit and tackle it?
Don't overcomplicate it. That's one thing that I notice a lot is new business owners because and usually it's just they're just excited. They're excited. They want to get going. They want to learn. They want to dive into every single aspect of this new journey that they're going on. But one thing that I notice with accounting specifically is it tends to get overcomplicated because, when you think accounting, you think of, sitting in the cubicles with going through these big massive reports and all these complicated things. But when you're a new business, you don't have a lot going on, and that's perfectly fine. That's actually better. Like the simpler you keep things, the easier it is. Like I will come into new clients and they'll have these charts of accounts that are 200 accounts long, and you're like, you don't need all this. If anything, it's more of a hindrance on you because it's just going to overwhelm you. Like you need to figure out where the important breakdowns are. Like you can have a general for like when it comes to your income statement, you can have the general categories that things fit into. And if you want to break down a couple of those things, like your marketing, you want to see where you're spending, or if you're spending money on Facebook ads or like just ads in general versus the money you spent on the outsourcing somebody who's posting on social media, and things. If you want to see a breakdown for that, great. But we don't need to be breaking things down into such specific categories that only one or two transactions would ever go there, because that's not going to help you down the road. Like you can't compare that against, 6 months down the road. Oh, I bought these 5 stacks of paper. So under office supplies, and then you have paper because you bought those stacks of paper. You're not going to need to buy paper again for a while. Like you're not having anything to compare it to. So I always say, like, just don't overcomplicate it. Take things, make things as simple as possible, and you can add more. Like you can always add more as you go, as things come up, and you can adjust. But yeah, definitely don't overcomplicate it because then it just gets overwhelming.
That's such great advice and probably super easy to do, especially when you've got more time on your hands. You think you're trying to get out there and get things all buttoned up, but all you're doing is creating more work for yourself right away. Um,
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit about what kind of packages you have to offer. So you're out there doing bookkeeping, advisory, you've got a couple of things you're going to add on later on. What kind of programs or packages do you have to offer clients?
Yeah, so I have a few different ones. I just have like the base monthly bookkeeping. It's pretty customized to what each business needs because, you can have these packages where, oh, it includes all this stuff, but if you don't need it, you don't need it. So what I usually do is I when I have somebody who's like interested, we'll go through and I'll figure out their biggest pain points, seeing what they're utilizing already, if they have any sort of softwares attached or connected to their accounts, to their QuickBooks files, and seeing where they're at. And then we'll kind of go through and, kind of base on, what's the average, transaction volume, how many accounts do you have? And we kind of tailor it to what they need. Because I offer receipt management, but not everyone needs that or wants that, but sometimes people want it. So we talk, figure out what you need, and then I have just the base monthly bookkeeping, which is go through all your transactions every month, reconcile everything, review everything, compile reports, and get those sent out to you with any additional metrics and things like that. I also have a micro business package option for very small businesses who are either just starting out or are very, some businesses just don't have a lot of transactions, they don't have a lot going on, but they're busy. So I have a lower price point than the monthly, but then what we do is we do pretty much the same thing, but we only do it every quarter. Because instead of we don't need to go through these same things every month, every quarter, we'll kind of get everything together, get you some reports for those quarters. But then I also have just like one-on-one training. If you have questions on QuickBooks, we can book, a half hour time where we sit in Zoom, kind of go through the things and do that. But those would be the three main things, and then one-time projects, which is just cleanups, or if you have questions and you just need one section done. Like I've had people come and be like, "Oh, I have all these invoices, nothing is matching up. I can't figure it out." So, you just go in, fix it all really quick, and then that's that.
Cool. So you strategize, you come up with custom packages for all the clients that you meet. So you're not just cookie cuttering everybody or making sure that you're tailoring your services and pricing according to what it is they need. I love that. I think it's great. Do you have any favorite tools, tech tools, or resources that you like to use?
Hmm. Like for my what I
Yeah, use CRMs or just other tech. So you use
yeah.
QuickBooks and you've got some Google extensions that you like to
Yeah.
tap into. What are some of those that help make your life easier?
Yeah, so my main one is ClickUp. So
Okay.
ClickUp is it's the similar like task software. Like all the others, Asana and Monday.com and all those. So that one's really big, is where I keep all of my business ownery type product things there. Like none of my client work goes in there. The only client things that go in there are to tell me like on this day, go check the other one to see what I got to do. Because I have certain clients that I do certain things on certain days for. So that one's a huge one that I use all the time. It's got the extension for it in Chrome is awesome. It's very robust. And then it also adds time. It has like time tracking in it, which has been huge because, as a business owner, one thing that I will say I'm pretty bad at is time blindness, or just estimating how long it takes to do things. Like in my head, I'm like, oh, that'll take 5 minutes. Oh, that'll take 5 minutes, but it's it's like an hour. So that is one thing I definitely am going to start utilizing more, is keeping track, using that to keep track of time, like on every specific task, to make sure that I'm pricing my services accordingly based on how long they're taking, and not just what my brain thinks that they should or will take, and things like that. So yeah, ClickUp is huge. I love that one. And then I have Keeper, which is my client portal software. And those two basically are my two assistants.
I love it. Well, and I love the idea that you have a tool that can help you with your time that way. I never thought about the idea that, yeah, you're right. I mean, we think something takes a few minutes and it does take an hour or maybe more. And we may very well not be charging appropriately for our services. So I think that's a fantastic eye-opening tool. That's great. So ClickUp and Keeper.
Yeah, yep, that's what I use for all my bookkeeping stuff. That one's been huge.
I love
They're
it.
really advancing the bookkeeping community quite a bit. They're pretty awesome. Pretty awesome group.
Cool. I love it. Great to know. Well, thank you so much, Jackie, for being here today. I loved hearing your story and all of your insights. Thank you for sharing so openly and honestly about some of the things that are coming up. And I like that it's okay to be messy in your books.
It's okay. You don't want to
It's
stay
all
that way,
right.
but it's perfectly okay. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah. You're here to help. And that's really
Mhm.
kind of your MO, is you're just here to help and you're available all the time. And so I think you've got some great services that you're offering. I love that they're tailored to each client, and you're doing great, Jack. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was fun. I don't know that we've ever had a conversation like this in the past, so it was kind of fun to kind of do the whole start to finish. So cool. And we can find you at, is it Vantage? What's your website, or how best can
Yeah.
we find you?
Yeah. So my website is, vantagevs.com. It used to be vantagevirtualservices.com, but that's really long, and so I had to change that. So it's vantagevs.com. So you can find me there, or on Facebook, Vantage Virtual Services. But yeah,
Okay.
through my website's best.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. This was a fantastic interview and lots of chock full of great insights. So appreciate it.
Great.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Savvy Leader Podcast. Be sure to check the description below for any links or resources we mentioned today, and for even more inspiration and tools to help you on your own leadership journey. Come on over and join the conversation in the Savvy Leaders Lounge. That's savvyleaderslounge.com, and we'll see you next time.